Let's face it, not all tractors deliver on the promises made in glossy brochures and polished dealer pitches. Some guzzled oil, others drained bank accounts, and a few left farmers scratching their heads, wondering how they ever made it past quality control. In this video, we're looking at 11 machines that were supposed to revolutionize the field, but instead became known for letting farmers down. And trust us, the last few entries, even the most loyal fans didn't see those coming. John Deere 2010. It's rare to hear lifelong John Deere fans advising others to steer clear of a green and yellow machine. But the 2010? That's the black sheep of the family. When Deere launched it in the early 1960s as part of its new generation line, the tractor was touted as a leap forward. Modern design, live PTO, and a variety of configurations, including row crop, utility, crawler, and orchard models. But the flashy looks concealed a deeply flawed design. The hydraulic system was notoriously over-engineered and incredibly unreliable. Mechanics often referred to it as a ticking time bomb of hoses. When it failed, and it often did, the repair process was a nightmare, often requiring the tractor to be literally split apart to access key parts. The engine wasn't much better. Poor lubrication plagued the early versions, leading to internal wear and a noisy, temperamental performance. The transmission had a hard time staying in gear, frustrating operators further. One Iowa farmer famously retired his 2010 behind his barn and used it to hold up fencing wire, claiming it finally became useful in that role. The 2010 was a major misstep for John Deere, and it's a blemish that the company still hasn't quite erased. Ford 6000 Commander. Ford had high hopes when they introduced the 6000 Commander in the early 60s. It was supposed to catapult them into the ranks of heavy hitters, sporting a six-cylinder engine, futuristic design, and the Selecto-Speed power shift transmission. It sounded great on paper. But reality set in fast. The Select-O-Speed system was anything but smooth. Shifting was jerky, inconsistent, and prone to failure. Many units were recalled, and some barely made it out of the dealership's repair bay. Then came the engine problems. Overheating, oil leaks, and premature wear plagued the model. Parts were costly, downtime was common, and frustration mounted. Ford eventually updated and re-released the tractor, but the damage to its reputation was already done. The 6000 Commander ended up being an expensive lesson in how big ambitions can fall flat when reliability is left behind. Allis-Chalmers 440. From the outside, the Allis-Chalmers 440 looked like a beast ready to dominate. Big, bold, and built to compete in the growing four-wheel drive segment of the 1970s, it turned heads. But underneath, it wasn't an Allis at all. It was a rebadged Steiger, powered by a Cummins 555 V8. And the problems followed fast. The 10-speed Spicer transmission was stiff and rough, hydraulic lines leaked and overheated, and steering under full load was a gamble. The Cummins 5.8 was decent in isolation, but the poor build quality of the tractor and its electrical headaches soured the experience. What was supposed to be a heavy-duty workhorse turned into a disappointment. It burned too much fuel, ran too loud, and broke down too often. The 440 had the muscle, just not the bones to back it up. International Harvester 460. The 460 was part of IH's attempt at a new era. Released in 1958 with fresh styling and improved horsepower, it should have been a hit. But it came with one fatal flaw. The drivetrain was completely underbuilt for the engine's output. IH essentially recycled components from smaller, older models and paired them with a more powerful six-cylinder engine. The result? Gears stripped, axles snapped, and reliability tanked. The narrow front end on some models made the tractor feel unstable on hills, and repairs were anything but cheap. As one farmer put it, the 460 looked good in the shed and fell apart in the field. Massey Ferguson 1155. With a deep, growling V8 under the hood, the 1155 sounded like a dream. Massey Ferguson fitted this model with a Perkins 540 V8 diesel, capable of nearly 140 horsepower. It was a bold move to compete with other row crop giants, but the powerful noise masked deeper issues. The engine ran hot, far too hot. Overheating was frequent, especially under heavy load, leading to cracked heads and warped parts. The fuel system was temperamental, and mistimed tuning could destroy performance. Some owners swapped the V8 for a more reliable inline-six just to keep the tractor running. The 1155 had style and presence, but when it came to field work, it left too many farmers stranded. Case IH 9180. The 918-0 looked like a heavyweight contender, a four-wheel drive giant with up to 335 horsepower from a Cummins 855 engine. But this 1980s brute had major flaws in its durability. The driveline couldn't handle the power. U-joints failed, shafts wore prematurely, and the articulation system underperformed on uneven ground. The steering was vague, and the hydraulics were prone to leakage at critical moments. On top of that, the cab was loud and uncomfortable. The layout felt poorly thought out. Despite all its muscle, the 9180 just didn't deliver where it mattered. Inconsistent, dependable operation. Oliver 1855. If you've ever heard of a tractor that broke both parts and hearts, it was the Oliver 1855. Marketed in the early 1970s as a flagship model, it came with a turbocharged Waukesha 310 diesel rated at 105 horsepower. But it couldn't handle the heat. Literally, the engine struggled under boost, often cracking heads and frying bearings. Oil temperatures soared, and the cooling system wasn't up to the challenge. Worse still, the oil pressure gauge was unreliable, meaning many problems went unnoticed until major damage was already done. The 1855 looked like a serious machine, but it simply couldn't sustain the performance its engine promised. Belarus 825. If ruggedness were the only requirement, the Belarus 825 might have been a winner. Built for harsh Soviet conditions and exported in the 80s and 90s, the 825 brought 80 horsepower in standard four-wheel drive, all at a bargain price. But its brute simplicity clashed with American expectations. The clutch was stiff, the gears shift clunky, and the cab ergonomics practically non-existent. Electrical systems were a joke, with wiring that looked like a last-minute rush job. Even basic maintenance was a challenge. Parts were hard to come by, dealer support was patchy, and the manuals felt like puzzles. While it wasn't entirely useless, the Belarus 825 served as a clear reminder. Tough doesn't always mean dependable. Long 610. Buying the Long 610 often felt like a gamble. Imported from Eastern Europe in the 70s and 80s and sold under the Long name in the US, it looked appealing with a simple diesel engine and low price tag. But that low cost came with compromises. Hydraulics were weak, transmissions noisy, and build quality varied from unit to unit. One might run okay, the next might fall apart in a season. Parts availability was sketchy. Dealerships often had no idea how to service them. One farmer summed it up: it was the cheapest thing on the lot. Now I know why. Mahindra 4110. The Mahindra 4110 promised budget-friendly power with global backing. Launched in the early 2000s as part of Mahindra's US push, it featured four-wheel drive, a 41-horsepower diesel engine, and competitive pricing. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. The PTO system was unreliable. Starting in cold weather was tough, and electrical gremlins, especially with the ignition and wiring harness, caused endless frustration. Some farmers got a good run out of them, until one morning the tractor just wouldn't start. Parts were hit or miss, and dealer responsiveness varied wildly. The 4110th had potential, but Mahindra didn't deliver the consistency farmers expected. Deutz DX 160. A sophisticated import with advanced features, the Deutz DX 160 arrived in the 1980s as a sleek, powerful 160 horsepower machine. With air-cooled engines and lots of high-tech features, it impressed on paper, but it struggled in the American heartland. Dusty farm environments didn't mix well with air-cooled engines. Electronics baffled local mechanics. Manuals weren't always in English. Parts were expensive, and even minor repairs could snowball into long waits and high costs. While it was respected in Europe, the DX160 never found its footing in the US. For a tractor that promised precision, it delivered a little too much confusion. Tractors aren't just tools. They're a core part of daily life on a farm. So when they break down, it's more than just an inconvenience. It's personal. The machines in this list weren't criticized for being old-fashioned or low-powered. They made this list because they promised more than they could deliver. And that kind of disappointment sticks. So, what do you think? Did one of these models deserve more credit? Or did we leave out a model that should have made the cut? Let us know in the comments. And if you love real stories from the world of farming, go ahead and subscribe.